Hey guys, welcome back. It's Jay at Mazda here at Riverside Mazda, and today we have the new 2025 CX-50 Hybrid. This particular one's going to be the Premium Plus trim, finished in the Polymetal gray, and we are going to check out what this vehicle's about. So let's get into it. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Before we look at the styling, let's just understand where this vehicle falls in Mazda's lineup. Now, the 50 Hybrid is a new vehicle, but it's new with an asterisk, right? So the 50 has been around since the 2023 model year. We are now on the 25 model year. However, this is Mazda's first full hybrid vehicle that they've made. Now, there is the 90 plug-in hybrid, which is a little bit different, and the 90 mild hybrid, which is the inline six, as you guys may know it, but this is Mazda's first full hybrid. Now, it isn't Mazda through and through. This is actually going to be a joint partnership with Toyota, and Toyota supplies the engine and the transmission in this vehicle, which is going to give it a really unique driving characteristic. So let's go ahead and just get into it and see what makes this 50 hybrid. So starting off, just like we remember in the front with the hood, we're going to notice things that stand out right away. We have two distinct body lines on either side, and then a strong line that goes all the way into the A pillar and transitions into the B pillar. Now, if we're looking at some lighting setups, we can crouch down. We can check out around the headlight. We don't have that LED daytime running, which we see in the turbo models, but still the same LED turn signal as well as main bulb. Now, if we take a look at the grille, it's going to be finished in the high gloss black versus a matte black and some other trims. And then, of course, the Mazda emblem here is silver, and our radar here at the bottom. Now, typically our radar would be right where the Mazda emblem is, but it's separated here, which kind of gives it a hollowed out design. And I like it because it's unique to the CX-50. No other Mazda model does that. And then a little bit further to the right, we can see this nice mesh air vent design. If we move it to the left, you can kind of see through. The top is blocked off for aerodynamics, but yes, the bottom part is fully functional. Now, taking a step back and looking at some additional styling at the bottom, we have a black front splitter on this as well. Moving from the front to the side, we're going to check out some things that make the Hybrid 50 a little bit more distinct compared to the regular gas model. So right away, what you can see here is we have the hybrid badge on the fender, which it's not overly done, and I think it looks nice. As far as things like the wheels, you do have a slightly smaller wheel. If you're on the Premium Plus trim, it's going to be a 19-inch wheel versus a 20 on the turbo models. Honestly though, I think this fits the vehicle. It looks much nicer, and of course, since you have that smaller sidewall, you're going to get a better ride quality. One thing in addition to that, you are going to get about 2 to 4 inches less ground clearance depending on the trim, and it's in combination with the wheels. And if we look underneath, we can see it's going to have this black thing right here. That's a little battery shield, so it does sit a little bit lower down there. And that's one thing you're going to have to take into consideration if you are thinking about taking this 50 to do more off-road things. Now, if we're looking at some more styling, you do have the black mirror caps here, and they have a nice little sparkle in them. It's a good, cool look. And then we have silver roof rails. Now, if you're on the premium trim, which is the middle, that's going to give you actually black roof rails with black exhaust, but this Premium Plus is going to switch the black for that chrome roof railing. And then going from the side more to the rear view here, we can go ahead and take a look. This is going to be, once again, traditional Mazda CX-50 styling. Not much is different back here. The lower part of the bumper, it does come down a bit further, but not much. We still have these dual LED tail lights here. We'll see on the side, CX-50 all-wheel drive, and then the hybrid badge. Once again, that's normally where a Skyactiv G badge would be, but it's going to say hybrid. And then mimicking the vents in the front, we have vents in the back, but these are non-functional. They're just going to be faux for look. And then of course, your 2-inch exhaust outlets here at the bottom. And then since we're in the trunk area, let's go ahead and check out the storage and see what you get. You do have power liftgate on all 3 trims of the CX-50 Hybrid, which is really cool. But if we look here, we can get some pretty sizable storage. We have a nice, good trunk here. As opposed to the CX-5, this has a 60-40 split, but still plenty of space to get done. This particular one, you see a CX-50, we have a trunk liner mat, and then underneath you still have a good spare tire that's a good size. not quite a donut, but half size. And then right in the middle, you have your subwoofer there. Now, normally on the CX-50, it is a little bit wider with the trunk. You do lose a little bit of that, but it is still a pretty healthy size trunk. If you want to put these seats down, they still make it pretty easy. You just pull the lever right here, and then those seats fold all the way flat. Now, I don't know if you noticed this a little bit earlier, but underneath, we can see this is actually where our battery terminal is going to lie. Now, typically, they'd be in the front underneath, but with these CX-50 hybrids, that's where your off-board battery is going to be. So we'll see that a little bit more when we look underneath the hood. So let's go ahead and head to the front. So here we are underneath the hood of the 50 hybrid, and right away what you can tell is this has a lot of wiring going everywhere. So if you're one of those people who like to work on your own engines, you could probably kiss this goodbye, as it looks incredibly complicated. Now, that being said, a normal 50 typically does not have this much wiring, but this is not a normal 50. This is using Toyota's 2.5 liter inline four, so it is still the 2.5 as far as displacement, but this is going to be Toyota's technology. Now we can see on the right where the battery normally would be, we have some electrical connections and a nice orange wire to let you know, do not touch this or you will be electrocuted. As far as what we see here in fuel efficiency and performance, you do get a slight bump in overall horsepower coming from the 191 on the 50 normal to a bump of 219 combined here on the hybrid model. Now, as far as efficiency, you'll average about 38 combined. You get about 39 in the city and 37 on the highway. So hybrids are backwards when it comes to efficiency. You are getting better in the city because of the stop and go, and the EV is moving it around. But overall, this is a stout powertrain, and I think it's more than sufficient. So with that being said, let's head inside and check out what the inside looks like. Now, getting in, you can tell that this mirror is going to be power folding. So if you ever want to hit that switch on the inside, you hit it and the mirrors will fold. It'll do it automatically when the car is locked. But we do have keyless entry here. You see that little button, that is to lock the car. But if we wanted to unlock it, we simply put our hand on the inside and then it unlocks and opens up. Starting off with the seats, they are going to be finished in this nice red interior, and I love them. I'm a big fan. The Mazda red interior is really nice. It's more of a burgundy color, actually. It's not going to be too bright. It's really classy, and then it works really well with this polymetal gray. Typically, this color combo is reserved for carbon edition models, but this is what we call, well, internally, I like to call it a mini carbon. So pretty cool. Following the same design of normal 50s, you get that black stripe that goes along the middle. Some people say it's uncomfortable. I don't think so. And then the red cross stitch that goes up against that as well. And then this black braided finish that goes along the whole thing on the seat, which is a cool little Easter egg. These are actually supposed to mimic the design of a hiking boot shoelace. So that's pretty cool. Now, speaking of more Easter eggs, if we move to the door, we can see right here, the handle is actually rigid. It's kind of like for a hand grip position, and that's on purpose. Once again, since this is marketed as a lifestyle kind of car, this is where you would grip on, and since it is textured, it's supposed to mimic that of a camera. So if people who are shooting a lot of outdoor or wildlife photography, this may be a similar setup. A nice little nod, but it's really cool. More things going on. Black leather on the top of the door with that red cross stitch. Of course, we have the nice Bose sound system, and then a gunmetal accent that goes along the lower or the upper part of the door. You still get the nice soft touch in the middle, and then the red leather that goes along here. But all your high touch surfaces are still going to be in a plastic, which I don't mind in this car because once again, it's a lifestyle kind of car. So it makes upkeep nice and easy. And then at the bottom, you do have a storage for probably not your biggest Stanley in the world, but a good sized water bottle, an additional pocket in the back as well. Now we are positioned in the driver's seat of the 50 hybrid. Now on the inside, if we're just going to talk about, before getting to styling and features, comfortability. Now this is going to be the exact same as the CX-50 and the normal turbo models and the non-turbo. However, if you are in the back seat, you do lose a little bit of headroom due to the battery being right underneath there. So you do lose a little bit. As far as the front seat, the headroom is still the same. It's not amazing because you do have that lower roof line, but it is definitely more than doable if you're shorter than 6'1". Now, just checking out styling, the steering wheel is going to be nice. We have the Mazda logo in the middle, a nice silver surround, and then as far as steering wheel, leather wrapped, and then of course all our buttons going to be with a machine finish. And then now going over some styling on the interior, we do get a nice size 10.25-inch display, which is controlled by our center dial down here, which I think it's really intuitive and it's nice. However, you do get the option to use it as a touchscreen if you are in Apple CarPlay, which you can hit the buttons and they'll switch back between your different drive modes different modes pretty quickly. But honestly, I think it's much more convenient to just use the dial, mainly because it's naturally right where your hand would rest anyway, so it makes it really efficient. And then plus the screen, this is not me reaching, this is just like hand straight out. You do kind of have to reach a little bit to get to the screen, and it's in a good position anyway, so yeah, definitely much easier to just use the knob here, but it's a little bit of a learning curve at the beginning. As far as the vents, they have a nice silver bezel around them, and right in the middle you have, between the plastic it sandwiches a silver piece as well. And then that same black with the red cross stitch follows into the door on the dash, which is really cool. So soft touch up here, soft touch down here, but on these lower parts it is plastic, but I don't mind that. So we have, once again, everything about Mazdas is really tactile. So your physical buttons for your HVAC, in the middle you have your plus and your minus for your fan speed. This particular model, you get heated and cooled seats. You are locked out of some certain features. For example, in a Turbo Premium Plus, you would get the heated steering wheel as well as the 360 cam and the parking sensors. However, on the 50 Hybrid Premium Plus, you do not get such features, but you do still have your wireless charger down there, and then a normal shifter. This does look a little bit different than a 50 or any Mazda shifter because this is probably just lifted straight out of the Toyota system. And then here we have our MI drive mode, our MI drive, which changed our drive mode. Normally you would see sport and off-road, but being in Toyota, you don't get that naming. You get trail and power, and you can tow if you like. You can tow up to 1,500 pounds, but when you do that, you get an additional mode called tow mode. If we open up the center console, you can see we get some decent storage in here. If I had to guesstimate, you could probably fit about 8 or so bags of Skittles. And then at the bottom, 2 little USB-C ports, so you can do both, and it's pretty neat. We have our dedicated EV mode button up here to switch that drive mode into just EV for a little bit of around the town driving, so that's pretty cool as well. But let's go ahead and head to the back and see what it's like for our passengers back there. So here I am in the back seat of the 50, and as you can see, where I have the seat position, there isn't going to be a whole lot of space. Now, if you're sitting behind somebody who's shorter, you are going to get a little bit more space, but if I was 6'1", sitting behind my 6'1" self, it would be a little bit tough. But it is still comfortable back here. The seats, same materials. It's a nice finish. Once again, red with the black. And then for the safety, of course, our nice little ISOFIX points that just pop right out. So really convenient and then easy to put back in. They just pop in. As far as the door, it doesn't unfortunately maintain that design. You don't get the black leather with the red cross stitch at the top, but you still get the red leather on the bottom. So that's pretty cool. Looking up at the ceiling, we have not one, but 2 moonroofs. Wow, very cool. Panoramic moonroof all the way through. This back one is fixed though. It doesn't open. That front one does. If we drop our center armrest down, we do have 2 cup holders, and this is pretty sturdy, so it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. Air vents for your passengers. USB-Cs down there. And as far as headroom, once again, it's pretty tight. You can see me. You can see my head. I'm touching the roof. Not great. But I know not everybody is as tall as me, so that may not be the end-all, be-all. But overall, it is really comfortable back here. Definitely, I would recommend if you have a regular-sized family. It's really nice. Definitely check them out. One thing I forgot to mention over here on the right-hand side, you still get your memory seating for drivers 1 and 2, which is, once again, you can program it to the buttons or to the key fob, so that is pretty neat as well. So now that we have checked out most of the features, let's go ahead and get on to the drive. Now, just in the cockpit, I would say, once again, right away, the feeling of comfortability is pretty strong. This is a nice, smooth ride. I don't even know, maybe this is just me, but I feel like it's a little bit smoother than the gas 50 all gas, so that is going to be a little bit different.
As far as overall extra features driving, you can't see it here. I'll put a little side view up, but you do get the heads up display, which shows things like your active speed. You have traffic sign recognition, so stop signs, speed limits, and things of that nature. Now, as we come around a turn here, one thing that isn't lost in this Frankenstein sort of build is the Mazda handling. So that they put a lot of emphasis on that as a vehicle. These are driver's vehicles, which is why you'll see some limited things in here as far as, you know, tech. I know a lot of new cars have a competition for who can make the biggest screen and make things as difficult to find in the settings as possible, but Mazda is the opposite. When they design their vehicles, they start from the driver's seat and then work outwards. So I really appreciate that as a driver. So if you enjoy that drive and want something a little bit more, I think that what separates this from the traditional competitors in this market space, which is going to be the RAV4 hybrid, which this borrows the powertrain from, and the CR-V hybrid. Once again, compared to those two, I think this is going to have a better drive. The fuel efficiency between all three is practically identical, so that's not a deal breaker. And then overall fit and finish. Now, you know, as far as the materials, these are really nice. Now, this is sourced, once again, Toyota parts, but this is assembled in their Huntsville, Alabama plant. So as far as like long-term reliability, hopefully it's great. We'll see how the build quality wears over time, but initial build quality, these vehicles have been out for about 6 months now, so they are pretty nice. But yeah, the handling on these is just, it's a dream. It's really smooth. This new eCVT, you don't really feel the gear shifts because there are none. So it does make driving pretty cool, and then of course pretty quiet as well. So it's like a little sanctuary when you're driving, and it's just a good look in here. It's really simple and it's clean, and it just follows the Mazda's, you know, less is more drive philosophy. But as we come up to a stop here, we're going to go ahead and test out that 0 to 60 to see how does this compare to a non-hybrid turbo model. So we'll go ahead and come to a stop. We have our drive mode. We'll go ahead and put it into the power. You don't have launch control on any Mazda model, so you do a little brake boosting. Hit the brake, hold the throttle, and it's just gonna let go. And it's going, and normally you hear a shift here, but there's not. And that's 60 right there. So that's fairly quick. I wouldn't say it's breakneck, but I do feel like it's good. I feel like the turbo with the torque does give you a little bit more, so you do lose a little bit of that punchiness, but it's definitely sufficient. It'll get the job done. Now, as far as when you are accelerating, that's one thing you'll notice, the sound that the engine makes. It's a little bit noisier compared to a normal 50. It's not dramatic, but definitely a little bit noisier. So that's one thing to look out for. But other than that, overall, really impressed with this drivetrain. I think it's really good. It's been getting a lot of positive feedback, and I think definitely you guys should head to your local dealer. If you're in Southern California, come to Riverside Mazda. You know, ask for Jay. We can definitely go over some options. But once again, yeah, great vehicle. And then we'll go ahead and do a closing thoughts here. All right, guys. So that has been our review of the CX-50 Hybrid, and I gotta say, loving this car. I think it's great. Styling wise, feature wise, performance, I think it's really good. Let me know, is this the bargain for the money? This Premium Plus trim is coming in at $42,000, but you do have 3 trims. The preferred starting around $35,000, the premium at about $40,000, and then of course Premium Plus at $42,000. Would you take this over a RAV4 or a CR-V hybrid? Drop it in the comments, and anything you guys want to see, let me know. Once again, thanks for watching. Thumbs up and share, and if you aren't subscribed, go ahead and hit that bell and get those notifications on as well, because we're going to be dropping a lot more content. All right, and to the next one, guys.